Welcome to another teaching from perfectingtheworld.com.
Good evening. Good to see you. Good to be back. We're back to regular field notes. We'll be doing Sundays, Mondays, and Wednesdays. This Friday is a bit iffy because Shabbat begins so much earlier. As we get further into the year, we'll be doing Motzei Shabbat as well, so Saturday evening. So good to see you. It's good to be back. We're continuing on the architecture of Ascent, identifying the Torah's native grammar of boundaries and Ascent. We've done some really heavy lifting to date, identifying the native biblical categories of identity and the relationship of the non-Israelite world to the Israelite world from the Torah. We're not looking at this point at any later Jewish sources. We're focusing by intent on the biblical sources, primarily from the Chumash, from the Torah. I do want to restate that. Please note that we've not been quoting from later Jewish sources. At some point, we will be referencing them to as a witness to what we're developing already from the text of Chumash. I am excited about what we're uncovering. This learning is highly important and will continue to be significant as we unpack this. A key verse that we've been looking at here is Deuteronomy 14:21. This verse is right at the middle of Deuteronomy. It's almost like an architectural capstone to the book, or it's a foundation point. It holds so many hermeneutical, interpretive keys for the rest of Deuteronomy. Over time, that this might become more clear. But let's start off with reading this verse. We have Lo tochelu kol nevela, do not eat any nevela. Nevela, as we've learned, is meat that's not been given a biblical kosher slaughter. La gera shebisharecha tetana wa'achla. You should give it to the ger at your gates to eat. O machor lanakri, or sell it to the nakri. Again, the reason why, ki am kadosh ata ladonai Elohecha, because you are a holy people to the Lord your God. Because of the election of Israel, the nevela is prohibited to the Israelite, but it can be given as a gift to the ger, and it can be sold to the Noki. Okay, really very, very important distinctions here. We have Israel, we have the ger at the gate, and we have the Noki. We spent some time defining ger and Noki lexically. We spent some time on both of these terms, highly important terms here. And the ger is a sojourner who has become visible to Israel's social public order through accountability to Israel's gates. We'll be defining that more later today. The Noki, where the text says, O machor the Noki, or you may sell it to Noki. The Noki is a foreigner. It's an alien, a stranger. We've expressed physically the idea that the Noki is not seeking a home or an asylum within Israel. They are a passerby, a passer through. And we've looked at how the word Noki is associated with Avodah Zarah, with foreign worship, with foreign deities, etc. We've addressed that at length in our evening field notes. Now, the structure of Israel's gates looks something like this. We have the Nokrim, okay, you can see here in the bottom left, who are passing through. They have no interest in aligning themselves with Israel's social order. They're on the outside. Then we have the ger, sha'ar, the ger at the gate. And we've used different terms for this ger, but the ger, sha'ar, has been our dominant term. And then we have the Israelite, which maps onto both the idea of the ger Yisrael and the Ezrak Israel, terms that we will define later. The ger nevela, or the ger sha'ar, is the ger who has a positive and visible relationship to Israel's social order. We've expressed this already, and the idea here on the left-hand side is a challenge that we experience currently in the Jewish world. It's the blockading of the doors. The doors are blockaded. We're under siege as the Jewish people, and we have raised our defenses. Okay, and part of why we've done this is because of what the Christian world has done. The Christian world has denied the gates exist. The Christian world has zeroed out the gates, zeroed out the distinctions, has abolished the distinctions, or we're speaking here of the Torah pursuant world among the Christians. What they've often done is they've taken their theological positioning and they've put themselves already in the highest level of the gates because of their theological positioning, because of their beliefs and their doctrines. And so they're essentially denying the gates. They're denying that there's any sort of boundary within the system. Okay, they're completely zeroing it out. So as mentioned, the Nochi is passing through. It has no identifiable relationship to Israel's gates, where the Ger Sha'ar, the Ger at the gate, has become visible to Israel's social order. We've explained already the idea that when God punished the nations at Babel, he assigned them under the jurisdiction of the 70 Sarim, the 70 princes, the 70 chief princes over the 70 prince nations. From there, he selected Avraham and used Avraham to establish a social order, a public social order in the Torah. The people of Israel, the Jewish people, are here specifically to develop a socially visible and publicly legible social order, civilizational order that is framed through Torah. Okay, really, really important. And the Ger, okay, as we're going to review here momentarily, has come into a positive relationship with Israel's public social order. So as mentioned, the Nochi is associated with the influence of Avodah Zarah. Okay, and we can expand on that. They are specifically still under the jurisdiction and the rulership of the Sarim. They've not accepted the God of Israel as their sole king. Okay, they're still in various ways, either through false religions, through false prophets, whatever the alignments are, they're still jurisdictionally under the Sarim. Okay, they are associated with Avodah Zarah. Okay, Avodah Zarah, as we've defined it, it's often translated, really mistranslated as the word idolatry. Avodah, we have the root word of avodah, comes from the Hebrew avad, which means to do liturgy, service, to do worship, to do service, to render a service or a liturgy to something. And Zarah means alien or foreign. Okay, something that's outside of the assigned order that Hashem gave at Sinai. So the Avodah Zarah is going to be any kind of a foreign service, a rival liturgy, any kind of an unauthorized worship that's outside of what Torah prescribed at Sinai. And when we look at this jurisdictionally, okay, with the 70 Sarim, with the assignment under the 70 Sarim, Avodah Zarah is participation in a rival administration through worship, and this is really important, please hear this, and through seeking power, through seeking protection, through seeking identity, or through seeking knowledge from channels that are outside of Torah's order. Okay, so when a person is seeking identity outside of Torah's order, they are still seeking something that is unauthorized. If they're seeking knowledge, okay, if they're seeking power, okay, through something outside of Torah's order, they're participating in an Avodah Zarah. Okay, they're not participating in the order that Hashem established at Sinai. This is highly, highly important. And when the Nochi revokes Avodah Zarah, when they revoke Avodah Zarah, they renounce their rival allegiances, including false religions and false prophets. If they abandon the foreign worship and unauthorized liturgy, if they recognize Hashem as the God of Israel, and they recognize Torah as the constitution that was entrusted to Israel, okay, at that point, that's when they begin their visible relationship with Israel's gates. Let's further expand on that. The nations are primarily by default in a situation of divided allegiance, of shared worship and association. The Torah tells us, Asher halak Adonai Elohecha otam l'kol ha'amim tachat ha'shamayim. Hashem has apportioned these things to the people under the whole heavens. This is Deuteronomy 4:19. Okay, because of this alignment, okay, we have this word shittef. Shittef means partnership. They have taken on false religions. They've taken on false prophets. They are divided in their allegiance. They're hearing the voices of false prophets, for example, or they're following a false liturgy or a false worship, a false religion, a new religion, a religion that's not based on Torah or based on Sinai, that was created outside of the people of Israel. That is part of the Avodah Zarah that the Noki publicly revokes in their alignment with Israel. So now here's what's fascinating. Shittef right now is tolerated. This whole idea of partnership is tolerated. It is the ordinary status of right now of the nations. It's a mixed allegiance status. We learn in Zechariah 14:9 that a time will come, it reads, Wahaya Adonai lamelech al kol haaretz, that it shall be that Hashem will be king over all the earth. But Yom Hahu, in that day, Yehyeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad. In that day, Hashem will be singular. He will be alone, and his name alone. Meaning that a time will come when all the nations will revoke their divided allegiances. They will revoke their new religions. They will revoke their false prophets, and they will accept Hashem, Yod-Heh, and Wah-Heh as king. Okay. And so what happens? This is a prophetic reality. It's not been realized yet. And I want to really emphasize this. In fact, God, essentially, we learn in our tradition that God is not even necessarily holding the nations accountable for this divided allegiance. But when a non-Jew, a person from the nations, rejects Avodah Zarah, they're accepting a future condition. We know that the time is coming when all the nations will revoke their divided allegiance. When someone from the nations revokes Avodah Zarah, they're doing something that we're calling prolepsis. Prolepsis is a reality that's being embodied right now that anticipates a future reality. So for example, okay, the Ger Toshav is proleptic because he adopts exclusive allegiance to Hashem ahead of the nations, ahead of the rest of the nations, ahead of the time that the nations have done so. They're moving toward Israel's center of gravity, okay, even though they have not been incorporated as an Israelite, and nor do they have to be incorporated as an Israelite, but they've moved toward Israel's center of gravity. We ask the question, okay, how does the Ger Sha'ar, the Ger at the gate, become visible to Israel's social order? Okay, one of the huge revelations here that we've opened up is the idea of the Ger B'Sharecha. Okay, it is being translated here as the Ger that is within your gates. The Hebrew there for within is the preposition ba. It means in, with, or at. The better translation is the Ger at your gates. Okay, it's the Ger at your gates. And what we have to understand here is that the Ger, okay, this is Hager, Asher, B'Shareka, the Ger who is at your gates. The reference to the Sha'ar in the Torah is a jurisdictional reference. The Sha'ar, the gate, is the seat of judgment within Israel. Okay, it's the seat of local judgment within Israel. Local judgment within Israel began at the gates. This week's Parashat Shoftim, speaks about, it reads, Shoftim wa shotrim titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha. Judges and officers you shall make at all of your gates. Okay, at all of your gates. Why is that? Because the gate is the seat of judgment. We see with the command for the holding of a Sanhedrin, if anything is too difficult for you in a matter of judgment, of matters of controversy, divrei rivoth b'sharecha, matters of controversy at your gates. Why at the gates? Because the gate is the place of judgment. This is why when the Ger has transitioned out of the Noki status, they have become visible to Israel's social order. We're going to divide this now into separate categories. First, we saw this the last time we met, July 31st. These four things here. First, we have the public renunciation of rival allegiance, the declaration of exclusive loyalty to Hashem. Now, this gets really important. Recognition that Hashem has trusted the Torah to Israel rather than independently bypassing the nations, bypassing Israel by giving it to the nations. Let me reread that. Recognition that Torah was entrusted to Israel rather than independently possessed by the nations. Okay, and from there, a willingness to become accountable to Israelite, to Jewish judgment, instruction, and communal boundaries. These are hugely significant. These in bold are a reference to Sha'ar, the gate, the boundaries of Israel, the legal, jurisdictional, adjudicable boundaries of Israel's public social order. Number one, number two, anyone can do that. Anyone could renounce rival allegiance. Anyone can give an exclusive loyalty to Hashem, the God of Israel. What I think is more difficult at this time is recognizing that the Torah was entrusted to the Jews. Okay, it is not independently possessed by the nations. Okay, it is the exclusive possession of the Jews. Number four, a willingness to become accountable to the Jews, to Jewish judgment, Jewish instruction, and Jewish communal boundaries. The whole idea of the gate, okay, sha'arecha, your gates, is the idea of the boundaries within Israel. Highly important. Let's speak about this entrustment of the Torah to Israel. Torah zi walanu Moshe Marosha Kehilath Yaakov. The Torah that Moses commanded us is the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. God literally gave the Torah as an inheritance to the Jewish people. It's no longer in heaven. It was given to the Jewish people to protect it, to grow it civilizationally. This does not mean that every Jewish opinion on every commandment is correct, but it does mean that it is within the world of Jewish adjudication. This is highly, highly important. Psalm 147, Magid Devarah Yaakov. He declares his word to Jacob, his statutes and his judgments to Israel. He has not dealt so with any other nation. As for his ordinances, they have not known them. God has an exclusive, unique relationship with Israel. He has bound himself in covenant with the physical people of Israel, a people that is seen throughout history, that can be known throughout history, that has always been identifiable, the people today who are called the Jews. Hashem has made himself vulnerable to the agency of Israel. This is huge. God has literally made himself subject to failure through the agency of the Jewish people of Israel. He has bound himself in this relationship. So when the non-Jew seeks to orient to the God of Israel, it is essential that they acknowledge this relationship. Okay? The Torah was entrusted to Israel rather than being independently possessed by the nations. Yes, churches may have copies of the Torah in their Bible, but the Torah was not entrusted to the church. In a similar manner, the non-Jew needs to have a willingness to become accountable to Jewish judgment, instruction, and communal boundaries. This is very difficult. Some of the fundamentals of Christian theology and thinking fundamentally deny these two realities. They strip the Torah away from Israel. They claim that the church now is Israel. They claim that they don't need Israel, the Jewish people, to interpret Torah. And then number four, they deny these boundaries. They essentially abolish the Torah by abolishing these inherited boundaries. Bisharecha is at the gates. When the Noki renounces Avodah Zarah and affirms Israel's boundaries, affirms Israel's gates, this is so important. It's not just the leaving of idolatry, it's affirming the gate. Again, the gate is a boundary word. It demarcates a boundary. When they receive and affirm Israel's boundaries, that's part of entering into the jurisdiction of Israel. Now, I'm going to give you the last two items here, okay? We saw the first four. I left the last two blank. The first four are the responsibility of the ger. Anyone can do this. even without the participation of Israel. Now, Israel has a responsibility to the ger. In fact, we're going to be spending the rest of this week looking at those responsibilities, the responsibility that Israel has to the ger. Number 5, this is Israel's responsibility. It's public acknowledgement by authorized judges to acknowledge that the ger has done these things, and its reception into Israel's social order, which includes reciprocal responsibility. There are specific Torah mandated entitlements to the ger sha'ar, the ger at the gate. We're gonna spend some time on these because they will further illuminate the biblical grammar of boundaries and of the ger. This will be the rest of this week, and the question I'm gonna leave you here with now. And please feel free to answer this in the comments below. What obligations does recognition of the ger sha'ar, the ger at the gate, create for Israel? Okay, I actually kind of already hint, but if you know what they are, please answer here. Please answer. What are the provisions? What are the rights of the ger sha'ar from Israel? What is Israel required to provide to the ger sha'ar? These are really important questions. We've been speaking about one of them for a few weeks now. Okay, please put your answer in the comments below. Please subscribe. Please like. Please share this. This learning about the boundaries within Torah is something that everybody who is Torah pursuant needs to hear. You need to hear this. This is the Torah that you've never heard. This is the Torah with Israelite Jewish boundaries. The Torah as it was received at Sinai, the Torah as it's been inherited through the last 3,000 plus years. Okay, it is fundamental to understand this. Now, for those who have been following, we are in the midst of a deep study on the book of Ephesians in the New Testament, Ephesians chapter 2 specifically, where we are looking at these received Torah boundaries. And Ephesians 2 speaks in such elevated terms about the non-Jew participating at the highest level of Israelite society. And the question we're asking is, does Paul abolish the boundaries? We're asking an open-ended question. We're going to be looking at it with Torah disciplined eyes. This is a textually serious study. We're developing these in a much more serious light. If you are looking for that next level of biblical studies and looking for a community where you can ask the serious questions about Torah, I highly encourage you to join us at perfectingtheworld.com. Our live sessions are every Thursday at 8 p.m. Thank you for joining us. Here is the website in case you didn't get it. It's perfectingtheworld.com. And I look forward to seeing you Thursday evening at 8 p.m. As a reminder, Mishnah Walk is Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Torah Tuesdays is 8 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, okay? And then the NT Project is Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic evening. Enjoy the start of your week.
Join the perfectingtheworld.com community today.